subject here, but most of us who've lived a little life out there or live with beloved pets accumulate parasites. If you're struggling with gas, bloating, loose stools, or constipation, or if you often feel tired and weak, there's a good chance you might have a parasite. According to the CDC, millions of Americans are infected, but most of us are unaware. That's why folks are loving Paratarget by Nature's Blast. Paratarget contains a unique blend of natural ingredients that help kick those parasites to the curb. People who use it have reported better digestion and improved energy levels. Just one scoop mixed into your favorite room temperature or cold drink every day does the trick. You'll even get delicious recipes for a tropical smoothie and refreshing citrus sunrise mocktail. Try Paratarget for yourself and save 35% on your order today. Go to Nature's Blast store and enter discount code Bryce at checkout. That's Nature's Blast store to get 35% off of Paratarget. Enter Bryce, B-R-Y-C-E, at checkout. All right, welcome to the Bryce Eddy Show. So today my guest is Drew Allen. So we are going to talk about a book he wrote in regards to Charlie Kirk. And I've read great portions of it, reading through it now, and it really talks about the impact he's had on our world, especially from a Christian perspective. And I want us to make sure that we are diving into that. But first, Drew Allen, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey, good to be with you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have you. And actually, it's good because, boy, we got a lot to talk about. And yes, we're going to talk about Charlie. And yes, we're going to talk about the book. You've done a really good job. And I know that people are stymieing you in getting the word out. So I want to do that because I think it's good. And you aren't just an opportunist. You aren't a, David French or, guys like that just want to capitalize on Charlie and his death. And there's a lot of grifters out there. And there's a lot of people that are just trading and trafficking on his death. No, this is a genuine love letter, I think. And I know you really appreciated what he did and the impact was huge. So, I want to hit that. I want to hit that deeply. But first, man, let's hit some news stories that are happening right now. A ICE agent just shot a woman in Minneapolis, and I wanted to get your thought and take on what's going on there. I've got a definite opinion, but what are you seeing right now? Is this the new George Floyd incident that they're going to create mass riots on?
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're already moving in that direction. They're trying very hard to make it that. And there are a few obvious points that probably people in the audience have already thought of themselves that are worth pointing out, though. I mean, they just had a vigil for January 6th. That would be the Democrats and the left a couple days ago, obviously. And, Ashley Babbitt was the only person, the unarmed female military veteran who was shot by Lieutenant, Michael Byrd, the Capitol Police officer. She was unarmed, and he was turned into a hero immediately. And of course, he was brought on TV shows and hailed as a hero. And he saved so many lives, they said about this guy. And it's just interesting that just happened, that anniversary. And obviously, the left had nothing but hatred for Ashley Byrd. It's the usual stuff like they did for Charlie Kirk. He got what he deserved, she got what she deserved, etc. Well, now you have an instance of obviously a radicalized Democrat activist who was blocking ICE agents in Minneapolis who were doing their jobs. They have every right to be there. They are, they're tasked with getting illegal immigrants and getting them ready for deportation. And that's their job. And you had a woman, Renee, and it's very tragic, obviously, who not only didn't listen to ICE agents who asked her to get out of her car and stop driving, but she tried to run over the ICE agent. Now, whether it was intentional or not, I'm not in her head, but the result was she almost ran over the guy. And there's new footage, by the way, Bryce, I just saw from a different angle coming from a 2-story building that shows clearly that the car was coming over him and he moved out of the way as he took that shot. And I just have to point out the point that, the left, when it was Michael Byrd who shot Ashley Babbitt, he was a hero. Here you have an ICE agent defending himself, and, they want his identity released. They want to dox him. They want him dead, and they want riots for this. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is all ginned up. This is a communist revolution that is in the works here in the United States, and it has not stopped, and it will not stop. We didn't just defeat them based on the Donald Trump election victory. This is a continuous pressure towards the dismantling and destabilizing of the U.S., and that's what these people are doing. And so you have NGOs and they are still, although Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and others and Doge put a serious dent in their funding sources, these people want a George Floyd 2.0 because in chaos they can destroy things and recreate it in their own image, which is a communist, a socialist, democrat, socialist utopia, and that's what these folks are after. And yes, the ICE officer jumped out of the way. You saw him have to evade the car, whether she was peeling out to get away. She was in a criminal act of resistance to law enforcement doing their duty. And there are a whole bunch of people that have been impeding ICE everywhere. I think we need to see arrests of the mayor and people like that that is out there saying that, we're going to fight ICE agents. I mean, guys like that have been pumping up this rhetoric and encouraging reckless behavior by these fools. And this woman was a fool. And I don't like the loss of human life under any of these circumstances. But this woman effed around and found out. I mean, you aren't allowed to do that stuff, and you aren't allowed to destabilize us by resisting law enforcement's doing their, duty.
Yeah, and look, this was a opportunity for the left that they have been trying to create.
Oh, for sure.
Make no mistake that they want ICE to be put in positions where a protester is killed, and they
Oh, yeah.
got that now, and they want more of it. And there are a couple interesting things as I was reading about this, Bryce. So one important point I think to make is so this woman that was fatally shot, she was married twice before. She had two ex-husbands and she has three kids. Two with the first husband, one with the second, and the youngest kid is a 6-year-old. Well, her second husband died in 2023, and eventually she made her way to Minneapolis. And now she's a lesbian. She married. It looks like I've seen them call her wife. So whether it's partner or they're officially married, she decided to whatever become a lesbian and marry this woman. And there's video of after the tragedy happening. Her wife is on camera saying, that it's her fault because she made her come down there. And I just want to point out something that, this is the left wing ideology. It appears that Renee, who was fatally shot, she was radicalized by the alphabet mafia and her new way of life and living lifestyle by this woman she was in a relationship with in a city that is notorious for being filled with radical leftists to begin with. And so, being a leftist, subscribing to that dangerous philosophy, this is what it leads to. It doesn't get any good results, whether it be economic or anything else, but it also puts people in situations in which you could be killed because of your actions.
That's exactly right. And again, sad for the loss of life, but this is the fruit of what these people are pushing. It is a destructive cult. It is an anti American position to be taking to not allow our federal law enforcement officers to enforce federal law on our soil. We need to end the unrestrained immigration. We need to get the illegal immigrants out of our country. And again, I have some subtle or nuanced views in regards to that. I think we created a problem over many years. The Republicans and the Democrats were complicit in creating an atmosphere where we imported a lot of cheap labor and
we looked the other way and we created conditions like this. We created a magnet that pulled a lot of these people over that hey, many of them are innocently looking for a better life. And I think we need to figure out ways to repair that. But it's not in the form of sanctuary cities. It's not in the form of um, ignoring the law, and these women, and it's unbelievably weird how many women and effeminate men are involved in these protests, standing there in front of ICE agents and trying to get physical with them, which has got to be one of the dumbest things to do on the planet. But that's what these people are doing, and it's very interesting because these I think a lot of these women that are resisting ICE or standing in their way and getting shoved aside or arrested are apoplectic, um, not understanding how they can be manhandled that way. And it's like, okay, hang on a minute. That's you're coming up against actual violence. Remember, this is the crowd that thinks words are violence, and then when they do actually face a little bit of violence, or the strength of a another human being enforcing the law, it kind of blows their mind.
Well, and you have to remember there's a somewhat humorous element to this, which is, this is the party, these white, women that are out there protesting. These people don't believe in gender roles. They think that they can be men. They want to be treated equal like men. And, you get pushed around by a man, and suddenly, they're women again. Hey, you can't treat us this way. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an
Yeah,
enormous
how
joke.
dare you? I'm a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Suddenly,
I've
your
heard that
profile says pronouns, but now you're
yeah,
a
yeah.
woman.
I've heard
Okay.
that a few times, shouted from them. How can you do this to me? I'm just a woman. Oh yeah, okay, you are now. Um, yeah, no, it's really unbelievable. So, while we're at it, let's talk a little bit about Maduro and Venezuela and some of that, because I am blown away at the historical ignorance, the geopolitical foreign affairs ignorance of the average American. And by the way, I mean, this exists on both sides of the aisle,
Yeah.
generally, and it these are the times when I need to pray, because I feel so discouraged at how stupid people are,
Hmm.
and how peacetime, America has had a real relatively peaceful existence. We've been very protected, we've been very insulated, but that's not reality. The Western world created a real sense of peace, but also a real ignorance to just the way of the world and the struggles that we're in. We are in a Cold War right now with Russia and with China and our geopolitical adversaries. And Venezuela is a very strategic and important thing. And what Trump did, I think, will go down in history as a brilliant thing and a very important thing for peace and stability worldwide. What say you?
Yeah. Look, there are a lot of stupid people out there. And they just there's such shallow thinking now. People trying to compare Venezuela to Iraq or the Middle East, for example. I mean, the comparisons aren't even remotely similar. Um, but let me say this first. I think that part of the problem we have, this ignorance out there, is has to do with Trump Russia collusion, because the moment Donald Trump came on the scene, and obviously the Trump Russia collusion hoax that turned into a soft coup was born back in 2016, it distracted the entire nation and politicians from real problems, right? Real enemies abroad. China has been our greatest adversary, and we created that adversary, I would add. We made that monster, and now we're paying for it. We never focused on it. Joe Biden never talked about it. I mean, he had his own corrupt tie-ins with the communist Chinese anyway. but nobody talked about it. Barack Obama spent his 8 years trying to help, Iran get an atomic bomb. So this is what we're up against because we've had, a decade of this. And Donald Trump, to his credit, is a visionary. And he's one of the few people, that really understood this problem from the get-go. And he's talked about these issues in China and even Venezuela since, 2016, 2017. And what people don't understand about Venezuela is that it's being used effectively as a proxy base by our enemies.
Mhm.
All of this, people mistake now, Bryce. They talk about, America first. And people that are wrong on the issue believe that America first means an isolationist mentality, that nothing outside of the 50 states that we currently control, or maybe the territory of Puerto Rico, et cetera, that doesn't concern us whatsoever. And it's a crazy thing to think about because as technology has advanced, as we have planes and travel and this, the world has gotten immensely smaller. And you can tie, by the way, Venezuela into Greenland.
Yeah.
But, Donald Trump, he's not looking at things, and he never has looked at things in terms of 4-year election cycles. He's looking at things decades down the road. And it's very Jeffersonian to me in the sense that Thomas Jefferson looked at something like the Louisiana Purchase, right? He doubled our country's size overnight with that. And Napoleon was around at that time. He'd been crowned emperor in France. And so he had the foresight and wherewithal to say, hey, we need this land for westward expansion. We need this to protect ourselves. He envisioned an agrarian society where we had just basically infinite amounts of land where everybody could be a farmer if they wanted to. But it was because of Jefferson that we have the Louisiana Purchase, which was absolutely brilliant, of course. And so throughout our history, things aren't frozen in time. We got Florida to protect the southern border effectively, that part of the world at the time. Obviously, the Mexican-American War, we got, California, we got Texas, we got a lot of actually our modern makeup of the 50 states. We got Alaska. So anyway, my point is, it's just insane that these people would think that in 2026, with all these things going on, with ballistic missile systems and all of the massive technological advances that we don't even know what they're going to look like with AI, et cetera, that demand lots of energy and lots of natural resources. And you have Venezuela that is, before Maduro was captured at 2 a.m., which was so amazing, but it was a Christmas present, Bryce. Delta Force. It was like, I was so proud. We can get back to it in a minute, but I just want to stop and say, when I woke up to that news, it was like a Christmas present to me. I spent all my time giving Christmas presents to my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old. And that was the Christmas present for me. I thought, I cannot believe, I felt so proud. I felt
Amen.
so proud. But
Yeah.
anyway, whatever. Give them a lesson on Venezuela because it's people don't understand that it was being used by, oil's involved, but that's not the exclusive reason.
Yeah, well, shout out to Marco Rubio, who's turning out. I've always been a fan of his. I did not want him, winning the presidency when he was running. I did not think he was ready for that. I think, though, he is becoming very quickly the number 2 guy in this administration, and his own style of, alpha dog in this whole entire thing. And he is acting. One of the great things, if you watch him in a press conference and talking to the press, he is good like Donald Trump is, just in a very different way. He is processing in real time. He's not just coming out there with bullet points that are given to him. He's laying out very complex issues. He is pitching back very hard on these dumb questions from these super stupid, ignorant journalists. And sorry, I'm on that today. I'm on one because these people are so such big fools in understanding these things. You'd think they'd get somewhat of an education on the complexities of geopolitics, but they don't. But you're watching him. This one gal from ABC, I think, or CBS is asking him, well, Maduro was only one on the list. What about, this guy, and this guy? And he's like, what the heck? What are you talking about? We're going to spend 4 days there. We were in and out. We got the number 1 guy. We cut the head off the snake. We seized control. It's like, all right, you fool. But Venezuela is important here in the Western Hemisphere, and Marco Rubio does a great job talking about this. You know, they've got oil for us to help us remain energy independent, and what's the alternative right now? Russia and China. And our foreign adversaries are taking that oil out of our hemisphere. And it is going to line the pockets of this corrupt regime, not the people of Venezuela who are starving. I mean, 8 million people left Venezuela because they were being brutally starved and stolen from. And it's a resource rich country that there's no way they should be eating their pets, and yet that's what they got to, because these people were starving to death, and they were being fleeced wholesale, and China and Russia were enabling. And yes, it was also a very strategic location for our enemies, and China was loaning money for their Belt and Road initiative out there, in basically paying off all these countries that would then owe them money, and they were using, you know, those barrels of oil and other things as collateral. So this was an excellent thing. Last night, I sat at this bar. I'm here in Nashville. I split my time between here and Idaho, and I'm in Nashville. And I go out to dinner by myself, and I'm, you know, sitting at this little place, and there's just this one other person at the bar, and it turns out he's a chef in town. He's a black guy, and he's from his family's from Jamaica, and he has run a couple of restaurants, and he's a good chef. And we start talking, and we're actually sharing some food, and we're having a good time. And he tells me, you know, I'm all the way over here on the left, and my boss who builds these restaurants is all the way over here on the right, but we get along. And you know, he finds out of my association with Charlie and Turning Point, and we start going deep. And God bless him. I mean, this guy is a great guy. And he starts asking me questions. Well, let me ask you this. And he goes, well, why America first? Why can't America just be second? And people who think that the America First movement is not important, you know, blow my mind. We need to be number one, because if we're not number one, then somebody nefarious will be number one and set the tone and set the table for all of us. Our country, you know, needs to be the most benevolent we possibly can, but the most dangerous we possibly can, the most effective on the world stage we possibly can, because that's how you end up ultimately maintaining peaceful structures. And he goes, well, what about all this imperialism stuff? I go, I'm an imperialist. I think we should reign supreme. I think Western culture needs to be preserved, and we need to fight for it. And you want guys like me in charge, guys like you in charge, guys like Rubio and Trump, and, you know, people who are strong and going to create stability through that strength, not, you know, weak, ineffective politicians that are scheming and ripping us all off. And okay, if, you know, America descends down a few runs and is, you know, ineffectual on the world stage.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre mentality. It's a dangerous mentality too, but just to use the chef, for example, like, he's a successful guy. I mean, he's a chef at a restaurant in Nashville. Like, that's not a small thing. And frankly, to be a chef anywhere that's actually open for business as a restaurant is a success in itself, because my
Yeah.
wife's a chef. She was a private chef. I live in Napa Valley, right? So like, I live in
Oh,
the
you're in the
haven
heart
of
of it.
restaurant. Yeah, so I understand this very well. And so I would say, you know, it's like, man, congratulations to that guy. But how did you get there? You know, by viewing yourself as second, by viewing yourself as third, by viewing yourself and saying, you know, and that's what's crazy. These people don't want to, you know, limit opportunity for themselves, but they want to limit it for other people around them, just not themselves. And why would you apply that to your nation as well? I mean, that's what's so insipid about the Democrat Party and the left anyway, in their entire logic. I mean, it's so harmful to individuals and obviously the country as a whole. I mean, it really is a cancer that teaches people that they should hate this country and not be proud of it. You know, and that you wouldn't believe that I mean, you said it. You said it great, Bryce. You are an imperialist, and that attitude comes from an understanding that we have good to offer the world. That the world is better because of the United States of America, and if it's
Right.
not us, someone else is going to fill the vacuum. And but there's like a very beta mentality about that, I think, too.
You know what was funny, man? I have an example of this, and I'm going to pat myself on the back only in a general sense that being a stabilizing force matters. I was I'm going to keep the names out of this, but I was at a hotel after a little party, and there was uh some of the guys that I was with were being obnoxious with this other group of people that were across the way. And I knew people in both parties. Okay. And these are not fighters. I'm a fighter, right? I'm a long time, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA guy, that's been my life. And I was there, and I knew people from here and I knew people from here, and they were antagonizing each other. And these people, I wasn't, knocking them back, but these guys were, okay, on both sides. And they were getting a little, and we're talking about conservatives, okay? We're not talking about thug gangsters. Most of them were like business guys. It was kind of a funny situation, but they were getting out, and they were expressing themselves a little bit too much, right? And they're going at it. And I'm keeping the peace. I'm like, knock it off, guys. I'm settling it down. I'm kind of putting this little kibosh on any real stupidity. Well, I got to go to bed, right? So I'm like, all right, see you guys. Blah, 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 hug, hey, see you, hey, see you. I leave. They end up getting into a shoving match, a fight. One part of the party gets kicked out of the hotel. And we're talking, this is in Washington, D.C., by the way, in a very
Of
famous
course it is.
hotel. Yeah. And it all falls apart. It goes to, but I was the stabilizing influence there because I could really kick ass. Right. And I was placing in there this sort of stability over the chaos. And so cool heads, mine being, were prevailing, and it was simply because I was a strong guy.
Yeah.
America is that. Our Delta Force that went in and snatched up Maduro under the cover of darkness, and oh, by the way, kiboshed all of their Chinese weaponry and anti-aircraft weaponry and everything. They made all of that crap go dark. I mean, it was a hell of an operation. It was, one incredible operation for the history books. And you have the entirety of the left protesting in the streets against it and saying nice things about this evil dictator. I mean, it is bizarre.
Oh, it was insane because 2 months ago they were having no kings protests. And then the next thing you know, they're lobbying for for freeing a narco terrorist and dictator, who stole an election from prison.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. How wild is that they're siding with the guy, a stolen election? They're siding with all this stuff where they're pretending that that's what Donald Trump did. It's just the cognitive dissonance of these fools is outrageous.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all moral relativism, and that's the whole root of the
That's right.
problem with the left to begin with. I mean, it's just everything shifts. You can justify anything you do. I mean, there's no, Charlie Kirk talked about this. I thought it was one of the most impactful things he would say on these college campuses was when he'd talk about our belief in a transcendent power. And so we don't believe in moral relativism. We believe in moral absolutes. And we don't view ourselves gods. We answer to a higher power. And that alone restrains someone like you. This is why it's very hard for the so-called right and many Christians on that side too to engage in this battle with the left for the country, because the left doesn't operate within any boundaries.
Right.
There are absolutely no rules of engagement for them. And of course, it's a Marxist technique. It's a Saul Alinsky technique. They make
Yep.
us live up to our own rules. And a lot of times, though, Bryce, what they do is they give us rules that don't even exist. And they do this to Christians in particular to paralyze us.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, well, with Christians, okay, and this goes. I mean, we're going deep here, but this goes back to the feminization of our churches, because there's this picture of Jesus as a nice guy, when no, he was a strong man too, and he was a kind man, which I talk a lot about on my show about the difference between being nice and being kind. But they have convinced all of these Christians that we ought to just be nice, and no, we should not just be nice. We should have things under control. We should put down the stupid rebellions that we see. We should be creating order. In fact, it is a directive in being good stewards of this earth, are putting things in civilization to order. God is a God of order, not a God of chaos. And what they want is chaos. And that's where Christians have been, I guess, yeah, falsely convinced that being nice guys is the way we win. No, nice guys finish last.
They do, and the same is true with the word love, right? So the left will tell you that love, the way they define it, is simply condoning everything. You do
Yes.
you, and I'm just supposed to cheer it on and submit. That's not what love meant, and Jesus demonstrated love um, by telling people the truth, right? I mean, that was the basis of his message in scripture in the Bible. And so, when a sinner came to him, whether it's a prostitute or whatever else, he would always say, "Go and sin no more." That is love. That is not condoning the action, that is condemning sin. And that's what's so crazy, Bryce. You and I think, have love in our hearts that the left can't even imagine. They've never even felt it before. Because even when I talk about these issues um, with the left, what I want for them is actual real success, right? What you want, what Charlie wanted, what enlightened people that especially are Bible-based Christians want is for people to find the path, lead them to the path that is going to lead them to true happiness and true fulfillment. And the left, they are leading people, frankly, down the path to hell because they're promising this utopia that is never, ever going to manifest itself. And I think that, too, is why you have this undercurrent of violence on the left because they get frustrated and angry. Oh, the longer they are leftists, because the fruit they're promised, it never presents itself.
Bryce Eddy here. Most of you know I'm an aggressive high energy guy, a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and between bodybuilding and my high intensity lifting sessions, I still train like I'm 25. You don't need to be a maniac like me to have painful, stiff joints, but if you do, Joint Complex by Nation Health MD can help. I'm a big believer in this stuff. It doesn't matter if you're struggling with aches or stiffness in your knees, hips, or back, Joint Complex contains natural ingredients that promote joint comfort and mobility. It features high-quality turmeric and boswellia to support a healthy inflammatory response. It contains natural eggshell membrane, which promotes strong and supple joint cartilage. Every bottle of Joint Complex is manufactured here in America, so you know you're getting the best quality for your money. Right now, you can try Joint Complex risk-free and save 35% on your order. Go to nationhealthmd.com and enter discount code BRYCE at checkout. That's nationhealthmd.com and discount code BRYCE to get 35% off your order of Joint Complex today.
There's no sweetness to it. There's no savoring anything. It's just you're angry all the time. And, the left tells you this is going to bring you, fulfillment. And yet you find yourself angrier and they point the finger all the time at you and me and say that we're the reason you're mad. No, it's because you're following a false path.
I could not agree more. Yeah, I think the hope I have is I do think people are waking up. I think the counter to what the left has done for so long and making white straight men be on their back foot is us being called racists, us being called every name in the book, and being told to sit down and shut up, and there's no place for us. Is we realized that we're going to be called those names anyway. You can't win. You can't apologize to a mob. They're going to eat you alive anyway. So now there's starting to be that clapback. And I think that clapback is coming really, really hard. Now it could go too far because you do have, some of these, fools that are doing the Christian nationalist thing and going down the path of embracing the Nick Fuentes style, white supremacy and all that sort of stuff that is, clearly not what God wants and clearly not what we're called to. But I do think that you're having people yearn for a more masculine Christianity. I think we're starting to push back hard on these left forces. Um, before we get into your book, and let's do that next, is have you been following the Candace Owens debacle and all the stuff that she's been out there doing? I'm reluctant to. I've talked about her so much, and my entire feed for a few weeks has been pushing back on her because I think what she's done to try to destroy TPUSA has been disgusting. But she just in her last episode has basically accused Ben Shapiro now of murdering Andrew Breitbart. And this woman has, because of the way that she's fomented her audience, she has to keep saying more and more extreme things. So now she's pivoting to another conspiracy, and I got to have some time with Andrew Breitbart. Absolutely admired, loved him. He's the father of a lot of people, including Charlie Kirk and a lot of the modern movement of conservatives that kind of found their legs, and Andrew Breitbart is directly responsible. But now, she's having to go down that path.
Yeah, it's so sickening. But the most unfortunate part is that she does have a lot of people who actually listen to her.
Yeah, I think a lot are these sort of liberal wine mom, 12 shades of gray sort of ladies that consume this true crime stuff and everything. I mean, I think that's what her audience is, turned into. And thankfully, because she's not coming through on a lot of her things and she's saying so many things that are inconsistent, the more savvy of these people are like, oh, wait a second, she continues to go in this stupid direction.
You made a great point. You're on it. You're right. You just made me think of something. Her future is the left, and that's who her audience is going to become, because
Yes.
no one on the right will listen to lies day in and day out that are proven lies and continue to listen and drink from that well, right? So you can look at the media as an example, and that's how we can understand where Candace is going. Like COVID, CNN, the mainstream media, right? I mean, the drive-bys, as Rush Limbaugh called them, they're all effectively dead, killed by these new forms of media. And why did that happen? Because, so many people tuned out because they were sick of being lied to. But there are obviously still loyal people who watch CNN, MSN, now it's called whatever, MS Now, I guess,
Yeah.
and the rest. And it's leftists who are so married to their ideology that they refuse to even allow themselves to be freed from it. They feel like, I think almost like they've dedicated their lives to this lie. And so it's an admission of their own culpability and failures if they were to acknowledge that they've gone along with this lie for so long. So, yeah, I mean, conservative, like with the COVID stuff, people woke up and they rejected it, and we've rejected the media. And people on the left didn't. There's still people out there wearing masks and so on and so forth. So the only audience that's going to be left for Candace, I think, is the mask wearers, the people who just even if Candace were to, well, it was so wild to see too, Bryce, that, Candace's own audience started to turn against her anyway. So when she speaks the truth, she gets attacked. Yeah.
They are. But remember, as soon as she went and met with Erica and was like, "Hey, we had some points of agreement and some points of disagreement,"
Man, that upset me so much.
We came that as soon as that happened, her audience started to go, "Oh, look at her! She's looking up and to the right. There must be a handler in the room with her. Oh, she was cloned." I mean, people were saying the most absurd things possible. And then she went, "Uh-oh, I'm losing them. I better get right back on this crazy train." And I've never really cared for her because I've always seen her as just someone who downloaded some talking points that were given to her. She could exploit the conservative movement. I saw that from the beginning. I saw her behind the scenes do Charlie in. I saw her behind the scenes then go and do Prager University in, and then go over to Daily Wire and kind of do the same thing. And Charlie and Prager were just too gracious to call her out. But she's playing this game like she and Charlie were BFFs, and instead of him, when he's going, hey, I'm thinking of inviting Candace, he was trolling at that moment, because that was like kind of an extreme thing in that text message. If you knew Charlie, he's like, hey, they're pissing me off. Maybe I'll just invite Candace back.
Dude, it's, it's so, like, you're on the inside, you knew Charlie personally, obviously, and these things. Like, I'm so frustrated. I get in these conversations with people occasionally, and they talk about these isolated text messages, or somebody brought up to me the other day, well, Charlie was saying, the day before in text messages that they're going to get him, or they're going to kill him, or whatever else. And who was he talking about? Was he talking about the Jews? Was he talking? And I'm like, you should see the text message. Our mutual friend, AJ Rice, who's happens to be my boss too. You should see I shouldn't even put this. You should see the text messages that we send all day long. You know what I mean? But the point is, you send all these things and there's no context to them. And what you just said there is it's like Occam's. It makes so much obvious sense. Like, yeah, these guys who happen to be paying me and helping fund the organization are ticking me off. Yeah, let's invite Candace Owens.
And what these people are not understanding is how often, anytime somebody gives big money for anything, there's a price they think they're going to get. Now, Charlie delivered, right? He was like, hey, I am going to do X, Y, and Z. And there was no more effective guy in getting results on things. And he did it. And he held this amazing coalition together. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. It was, to use that example of me in the hotel, that was Charlie in the political world. He held everybody together. And then as soon as he departed and was murdered, then, people started, grifting like crazy, vying for power. There's a certain amount of chaos within TPUSA because they're mourning and they're trying to figure out, and they've lost their leader, and there was no, better guy than Charlie. I mean, he was one-on-one. And so, we're seeing all the chaos as a result. And then you have Candace and others seeing these people in chaos and mourning and exploiting it, thinking that automatically they're going to know what to do, after losing Charlie, they're going to automatically be doing all the right things and not tripping over themselves. No, I mean, shoot, they're double guessing Erica and oh, is she really mourning? She's trying to hold this thing together while mourning her husband. The entirety of the leadership team is trying to hold it together while being flat-footed and not knowing what to do. I mean, that is normal. And it's bizarre to see these people not understand that look, Charlie had donors all the time trying to influence him on who he could have, who could speak at an event, who could be, and Charlie was Charlie, and he was going to do what he thought was best. And I sat in the meetings where these things, were discussed. I have text messages from him, where he got thoughts from me on things. I mean, I was, proud, early on and during COVID, I would see certain things that were happening, and I would say, hey, Charlie, this is what they're going to do next. And I would give him some talking points on things. And then, of course, the next day he'd just take whatever I said and say it 1,000 times better, more clearly, take a little German of an idea or something that I saw and just like blew me away. I mean, he was such an epic talent as a communicator as well. And he was just so brilliant. But they don't understand all the subtleties of that. They also don't understand that he was when he was saying they were going to kill me, or they want me dead, he was getting death threats all the time. I personally, with our team, chased things down and coordinated with FBI on credible threats. We found this one dude that was threatening Charlie, that said he was going to show up at a gun at an event. We found him because there was this little picture that he had posted of a dog, and we were able to find that dog. And the guy was a member of this club. that liked this particular kind of dog, and we found the exact picture, and he was in it, standing next to this dog, and we were able to chase him down, and he was in the East, and he was a credible threat, and was along one of Charlie's tourist stops, and you know that stuff was going on all the time. And yes, people who were in opposition to Trump, people who were in opposition to America First and MAGA and this coalition and, China and all these, foreign actors and adversaries did not want us to have a strong coalition. Yes, they wanted Charlie dead. Does it mean that it was, Maduro? She's accused every single
Macron's.
human being on the planet. Yeah, it was Macron's penis that killed him.
Yeah, exactly.
It's everything. That's what she's done at this point, and she's had no receipts. She's used, very thin, like a couple of text messages. All of her things are, well, Andrew Colvett told me this. Oh, okay, prove it. All of this anonymous sources, high up sources in TPUSA. Well, now she's on to Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro is wanting her dead now.
Yeah, it's man, it's a sickness. It really is. I'm so fed up with it, and I've been put. I'm not big enough to do much damage there, but I've done my best too to just enlighten people about how, frankly, I know we're not supposed to use this word in this day and age, Bryce, but I have to use it. I'm sorry, retarded. You got to be retarded.
I think it's a great word.
To sit there and listen to Candace Owens. You're being lied to. And every time she introduces a new theory, it's an admission that she lied to you before. So
yep.
It's outrageous. But there's also just the demonic side of it, that you would try and do this and exploit a previous relationship that was no more, frankly, from everyone I've talked to.
Oh yeah, no,
regarding her and Charlie, but
he tolerated her and still considered her a friend. Somebody who's like, he said that they were friends in 2025 here in this clip. It's like, well, yeah, of course. I have lots of friends I'm no longer close to that I still consider a friend. They've gone a different direction than me. I still call them a friend. I don't, badmouth them. I wish them well. But we've grown apart, and what they're doing right now is doing some nutty things. I have a whole bunch of friends that are jumping on the Jews are responsible for everything on this earth, and I've had private conversations with them, and I've been like, bro, calm down. And I'm not publicly excoriating them, but some days I'm close.
Yeah, it just seems like such a wrong thing to do as a human being, to take someone who's just died, in this case Charlie, and to try and rewrite his legacy, to try and and all the people that believe these things and are saying these things, they knew nothing about Charlie Kirk. And I didn't know Charlie Kirk personally at all, but I understood who Charlie was because he's someone that I realized really after his death that I really admired, and I believe the things that he does. And we have, obviously there are a lot of people that agree with Charlie. He made a lot of sense. And so the idea that you would come in and do this, I just don't know. And to treat Erica that way and everything else, and there are people that defend it. It's just like, you're a monster. The monsters came out, and yeah. I took note, man. I took out my pencil and paper and I wrote all their names down.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people just jumping on the coattails of it for, temporary relevance and, gain some followers and all that stuff. Yeah, it's gross. Well, let's talk about your book, because, I was impressed. Again, I'm not finished in reading it, but you've done a really good job of pointing out what you said, seeing what Charlie did. And I think, a lot of this just kind of hits you, after his death. And of course, there's a lot of people that, like Candace and others that have exploited his death for financial gain. You are not doing that, by the way. And I will say that wholeheartedly. And that's why I wanted to have you on, and I want to promote this, because I know that, even TPUSA has been, running crossways with people who have been writing books on Charlie, and I can't blame a lot of them, because what they're thinking is, okay, here's all these Johnny come latelys, jumping on this bandwagon. But this is truly a love letter to him, and I think you point out some really important things in the book. So give us a good high level summary, and
Yeah.
tease it enough so that people want to read it through like I'm doing.
Well, look, man, anyone who knows me and has talked to me for any just short amount of time knows that I'm not a grifter, et cetera. And by the way, Bryce, for anyone, if you've written a book, that's not a way to try and actually make any significant amount of money, right? So, uh, yeah, look, I mean, for me, I didn't even intend to write the book right away. I mean, the only thing that is relevant that I put out there to be as transparent as possible is that, yeah, I was briefly with AJ, Charlie's publicist for Right Wing Revolution. And so, I'd text like Mike McCoy and email those guys for, filling up his schedules with interviews. But I never, ever had direct contact with Charlie, which is actually kind of unusual in the sense that, I've done PR for like Tulsi Gabbard and a lot of people too. And, I've met them and had conversations with them. So anyway, I point that out because I think it's actually makes the book more significant because I'm not coming at this from any kind of insider angle. Like I was just devastated by his death and found myself wrecked in a way that I'd never experienced before. And I wasn't going to write a book. I was actually writing another book that's coming out, Price, in March about Trump-Russia collusion using the declassified stuff. So I shelved it for a minute to end up writing this, but I was trying to understand why. I mean, I cried for a week. I was picking up my daughter from school, my oldest, when I got the news he died. And so this was the moment that I think forced me to this book to come out, is that my daughter was coming with my wife to the car, yelling with joy, dad's in car, at the same time that I realized that experience had been stolen from Charlie Kirk's own daughter and son and family. And it was so deeply unfair and wrong. And so that's what it was born from. This, like, why, I don't know this guy. So why, I've had people die around me. I never cried like this. It never caused me to have this internal struggle where I was forced to, frankly, transform my entire life because of this happening. And by transform, I mean just finally like get rid of the residual fear I had about condemnation of man out there. I think that I started looking into Charlie like a lot of people after that happened. And I just, when I was doing PR for him, I didn't even know how important he was. And it's so weird to think about the fact that he's actually like even more important in death than he was alive somehow. And in his death, even more people who didn't even know who he was came to even Christianity, frankly, from all of because he was prolific. He filmed everything. And so there's like footage that can last a lifetime, even though he was only, 31, that is like testimony and this amazing stuff. And so, but as time went on after his death, I thought that we were going to end the left forever because they finally had succeeded this climate of dehumanization that was targeting Charlie Kirk directly. I thought that we were going to have a national conversation about left-wing violence in this country and the ideology behind this that led to this moment, and that we needed we could agree as a nation, like this has to stop. We need to talk about the root cause of this. And none of that happened.
Yeah, we started, and that's why I get so mad at the people who derailed it. Of course, it was intentional because they didn't want that revival. Yeah, I had an experience, here in Nashville where I was in a jazz club, and one of the people that I was with was getting into some conversation with these kids who were doing PR for something, and they were I guess talking about how they did PR for some conservatives, and they were like sheepish because we're in Nashville, they're not sure, so they don't know, and my friend that was talking to them goes, oh well, he worked with Charlie, and the dude came over to me and started just gushing over what Charlie did for him in his life, and it was a young kid, and I remember just thinking, man, this is what Charlie wanted, and just the emotions that I'd been bottling up. And I mean, I cried plenty, but I mean, it was still so raw for me. And I kind of had to excuse myself. I was like, boom, tears just hit me because, man, that's what Charlie was praying for, that revival in people. And so, I mean, it's a blessing that happened in his death. It's sad that some nefarious forces have tried to derail it, because it for a little while there, it was pulling us together.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It's funny, anecdotally, over the Christmas holiday, I was with one of my wife's cousins, and he's much younger. He's in his 20s, and he did buy my book, but he hadn't read it yet. But he just wanted to tell me how much Charlie Kirk meant to him, and he followed Charlie, and he didn't know who to listen to now because, Charlie was like the North Star. He was so grounded and so
Yeah.
intelligent and had great arguments for everything. He thought everything out. He wasn't just reactionary. But I didn't know. But I knew this kid. I've known this kid since he was like 13 years old because my wife and I've been around each other and dating and then married, for a long time. But like so many people came up to me too afterwards because they know I do PR and they know I work in this kind of MAGA world, and they kind of came out of the closet to me about like, wow, like I'm gonna miss Charlie. I can't believe this happened. It did that for a lot of people. Charlie always said, confidence, I think, is contagious,
Mm.
or courage is
Courage.
contagious. I mean,
Courage. Yeah.
and I think that a lot of people found this new courage in themselves that they had been suppressing or couldn't find a way to tap into until they watched, Charlie Kirk die. And I mean, that's to me, that's the because the book is For Christ and Country, the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. I do view him absolutely as a martyr.
Yeah.
And it's not just because he was killed for his beliefs and his Christian faith, but it's because of the results that you saw after his death. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and it's and he wasn't a president. He wasn't, he was a leader of a grassroots organization. He was influential. He counseled members of Congress. He had the president, vice president's ear. But, for someone like that at that age to die, and you have like the Billy Graham crusades coming out, like it's just it was an appropriate testament to how special he was.
Yeah. No, and he was one of one, and he held a coalition of people together. I mean, I had the pleasure of, getting to eavesdrop on conversations that he had when I drove him places, and listening to him, uh, you know, really get people in line. I mean, we're talking congressmen and senators and very powerful people in this country. And I've listened to him on a call with Trump. I've listened to him, doling out talking points and giving advice, and talking strategy with people that you'd be like, wow, I can't believe he's on the phone with him. I mean, it was pretty wild, and I could not believe how much wisdom he had for how to create a movement of people, and how to articulate. We have the best ideas in the world in the West, and we need to express those ideas better. Well, there was nobody better than Charlie to say hard things and to express our good ideas. The left, it's bumper sticker level thought, and so you can just slap these ideas on bumper stickers, and then everybody goes, oh yes, and don't understand that, no, things are more complex than that, and we need to be thinking about these complexities, and we need to be making hard choices, and Charlie did such a good job articulating all that. So tell us, where do we find the book? How can we promote it for you? Again, grab it off. I see it behind you, but it's
Oh
cut
yeah.
off a little bit. But yeah, grab it so that we can see it here. And yeah, how do we get it? Where do we get it? How do we get Amazon to quit ignoring you?
So for 3 weeks, Amazon was censoring the book. They were shutting it down over and over again, and so it could never climb through the rankings. They were trying to keep it invisible effectively. I am happy to say that as of this week, um, they have not shut the book down.
Amen.
And so and it's been amazing too. I mean, it still takes 3 weeks to get the book if you order it, which is kind of wild. But anyway, um, they're not blocking it, and it was cool. I'm the number one book. People don't understand this. I'm the number one book in LGBTQ plus demographic studies, and people keep texting me like, Amazon's woke or somebody made a mistake. I'm like, no, like I told my publisher to put the book in that category in addition to the other two because I wanted to troll the left and be the number 1 LGBTQ plus author, but also because I deal with a transgender issue in a very serious way in the book. So it's not total trolling, but no, the book's starting to
Good.
sell, obviously, and I just hope that it addresses a lot of the concerns that we have, and I think it's as good a defense as I could amount for his legacy and trying to inspire other people to try and live up to the ideals that Charlie embodied. I mean, I was just asked one question of you, for your audience's benefit, but one of the things I talk about in the book, because I want to encourage people, is that, Charlie wasn't always Charlie. To me, one of Charlie's greatest enduring legacies is that he represented American exceptionalism. He woke up every day and wanted to become better. He wasn't
Yes.
always the perfect debater. He was talented and smart, but he became that through work, right?
Oh, he did. I mean, he would study an average of 3 hours a night. He wasn't consuming endless social media reels. He wasn't, doom scrolling. He wasn't planted in front of a TV. He led a very clean life. He ate clean. He didn't drink booze. He didn't do all the fun things I do, like smoke cigars and all that. But he was an autodidact, continuously studying, continuously learning, refining himself. That's why, people like Candace, who knew him back in the day, one of the challenges she leveled and a criticism she had against TPUSA is it became more of a Christian organization. And what it was because Charlie went from being a, political activist and Christianity was, yes, he was a Christian, but TPUSA was not a Christian organization, and it quickly became more of a Christian organization as he became more of an evangelist. So Candace, was like, oh, all of a sudden all these pastors were taking over and everything. No, Charlie was not a dummy or ineffective leader. No, he led that organization and he set that tone, and he created Turning Point, TPUSA Faith, and went down that path, and he evolved, which is why also he became so authentic. He didn't just become, Catholic because of like Candace did because of her husband. He was who he was, and was continuously growing and continuously studying and continuously getting better and better at what he did. He demanded excellence of himself.
Yeah, yeah. Bryce, it's so fun. I'm like turning this interview around. It's like the Drew Allen show. Bryce, I got questions. No, but what I wanted to say is, Bryce, I've gotten to know you a little bit lately, and it's a blessing. But I really hope that, and I pray that TPUSA, that they have wisdom, that God just gives them wisdom right now to just look for, real people that have the ability and frankly, the heart to continue the mission. And I hope that you're one of those people, Bryce, that we see more of front facing. To me, man, you got a heart of gold and you're articulate and you're a good guy. And too, like I talk to these people and I watch people too, and I'm not going to name names, and this is not meant to be any kind of horrible criticism, but I see people that want to inherit the mantle of Charlie Kirk, and some of them are moderately famous. And they don't have it, man. They're not the right people just because we're friends with Charlie or just because they have supposed audiences right now. It's like, that's not it. You're better.
I agree.
TPUSA is better off going out and finding new talent that can live up to, Charlie Kirk's own expectations than to take somebody who, just because they were friends with him or were around, you know what I mean? And and obviously people are probably speculating,
right.
but
you're absolutely right. Charlie was one of one. There's nobody including Erica. God bless her. I'm not being critical of her, but there's nobody that could step into his shoes. And he was one of one. He was a generational leader. And no, there will be other talented people, and there'll be people that can carry on his ideas. And there's probably a 12-year-old Charlie out there right now that is so influenced by him, and so in awe of what he did. And Charlie would love to see those people come up and rise. But you're going to have a lot of different people that are trying to carry on his movement. The leadership is not going to come from within TPUSA. TPUSA has an important job to do. I'm not being critical of them in that. There's many aspects of what TPUSA did that Charlie helped create, or directly created, or was directly in control of. But he set the tone, and I do think that there's good work that will be carried on. But no one is going to replace Charlie, and nobody out there has the talent and wisdom that he had. There's a lot of great, quick speaking, smart guys out there, but Charlie had a humility and a graciousness and a quality about him that does not exist out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's the guy spent over a decade becoming that Charlie Kirk, which
Yeah,
was TPUSA. And so obviously nobody else can replace that. I mean, that was his lifeblood. But it's just there's a lot to navigate right now, and there's a lot of forces that are trying to, peel this movement apart. And
yep,
it's good to recognize the allies and band together and stay on message. It's hard.
yeah.
It's I'm trying to avoid falling into this, calling people out on our side. They're not on our
Yeah,
side if we call
and
them
I,
out, probably, but
I regret that I did in some respects, but also, the only one that could have stopped me back in the day was Charlie from talking smack on some of these people that were doing evil deeds. And I am, trying to pivot away from doing that, but it's so hard to watch this stuff happen and remain silent when people are doing it just for money.
well, I think when you have insight and you're in a position to influence, I think you have an obligation to do it to some extent. I just think that some people, and I'm not talking about you or me even, I'm just saying this is always a temptation. You see it happening. It's like, I don't want to become someone who spends my entire show not focusing on the Trump agenda and saving the country. And I spend my whole show every day just talking about other hosts out there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I don't want
yeah.
to give that attention. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
No, and I think that's wise. And yeah, I also, man, it to live in that space is discouraging, and to, have to spend your time doing that instead of talking about these positive things that are going on, and celebrating, the tremendous moves that Trump and his administration are making right now. I mean, just one of the things that Trump's done could have made an entire presidency and administration. And this he's managing like 10 or 15 different amazing things all at once, trying to get America to be strong again. And yes, I do hope we take over Greenland. All right, brother.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Hey, thank you so much. How can we follow you? Where can we find you? And plug the book one more time.
Yeah, sure. If you're on X, that cesspool, it's at Drew Thomas Allen. I've also got a Substack, drewallen.substack.com. You can check me out there. And then book Amazon for Christ and Country, the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. And if they do block you for some reason, they shouldn't now. It's available elsewhere.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, Drew. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. And this is a great conversation. I'd love to have you on again, man. You and I could rap about some other news from time to time.
Well, we're going to reverse the roles here next time. I'm going to have you on my show.
All right, let's do it. All right. Thank you, brother. All right.
Thank you.
To God be the glory, and we are out. All right, Bryce Eddy here. Hey, so you have seen the news. The world is in chaos. We have all kinds of geopolitical drama right now on the world stage, and we are indeed in a second Cold War. So I want to talk to you today about protecting your household's future, starting with your finances. The signs could not be clearer. Gold has surged past $44.50 an ounce, and silver is blowing past $80. That's a historic record for both of those. And the biggest names right now on Wall Street are predicting even more growth due to all of the economic events. Their price targets are climbing as high as 6,000 on gold, $100 on silver. On top of this, we're seeing more and more instability, and nations are trying to undermine America's influence and dollar dominance. That's why I've partnered with American Independence Gold. Buy gold, folks. This company is veteran owned and they give back, donating proceeds to Tunnel to Towers in honor of our first responders and heroes. And here's the opportunity for my listeners and supporters: you can receive up to $10,000 in free gold and silver credited to your account with qualifying purchases, of course. That's real physical gold and silver, tangible assets you can hold in your hands to defend your wealth. Don't wait until it's too late. Go to bryceeddygold.com. That's bryceeddygold.com, or call 888-670-7011. Again, that's 888-670-7011. Take action today. Protect your family, strengthen your future, because freedom and security are not handed to us. They are preserved and fought for by the choices we make. This is Bryce Eddy for American Independence Gold. Freedom isn't given, it's secured.